Sorry.
You've got to check it, haven't you?
Good evening. Lord Mayor, Lady Mayoress, Madam Deputy President, honoured guests and senators, patrons and sponsors of JCI Bradford, Regional Group Chairman, Presidents, members, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Midland Hotel and the JCI's 50th anniversary dinner. It is really a privilege for me to be stood here as President of JCI Bradford, and I have to say you are also very privileged I actually wrote this speech instead of my usual attempt to wing it. However, I did write this about 3 weeks ago and I haven't looked at it since, and I'm going to try and finish it very quickly. 50 years ago, Junior Chamber was set up and has existed in Bradford all that time. Over the last 10 years, it has been a roller coaster of an existence. However, 2009 will mark the turning point for Junior Chamber in Bradford. A few months ago, we were actually considering winding up Junior Chamber in Bradford. And thanks to my wife, who agreed, I decided I would take it on. And as some of you will know, that is actually now for the second time. My team and I will prove that there is a place for Junior Chamber in Bradford and in people's lives, and will lead the way in developing young people for years to come. I didn't realise the page turning thing. It was and still is Junior Chamber that provides me with the personal development opportunities and very importantly, the environment to build my confidence, which is not very good tonight. But it has in turn helped me, not just to do things in my life that I'd only ever dreamed about, but it's also helped other people. Finally, Junior Chamber in Bradford is here to stay, and we will literally show the world how powerful Junior Chamber is and how great an opportunity it is. Thank you.
UK Deputy National President, Leslie Young.
Hello. Lord Mayor and Lady Mayoress, distinguished guests, past National President Sarah Jane, and past National President and founding member of JCI Bradford, Tony Hepworth. Patrons and sponsors of JCI Bradford, senators, regional group chairmen, presidents, members, ladies and gentlemen. Phil and I had the same list. Firstly, I'd like to begin tonight by giving a heartfelt apology from our National President, Charlie Best, who's really sorry that she couldn't be here tonight to join JCI Bradford in their 50th anniversary. But she did want me to send on her pride that the Chamber have really become reinvigorated this year, re-energising themselves, and how enthusiastic Phil and the local team have been on that focus. JCI Bradford have a long and proud history in our organisation. There are many well-known past members from the Bradford community, some who are still playing a vital part for influencing the organisation today. They've had long-standing events such as the school's public speaking competition, but I'd particularly like to pay tribute to the Secret Santa competition. This event was initiated by JCI Bradford Junior Chamber almost 20 years ago, and it still stands as a shining example of best practice which is now carried out by numerous chambers across the UK every year. However, it is also great to see new members coming on board to the team. JCI UK were delighted to see Phil and other members of JCI Bradford at our national conference in Leeds 2 weeks ago, and I can assure you that they contribute greatly to the success of that event, and we're really looking forward to seeing more Bradford members along to the regional, national and even international events in the near future. JCI UK is a focus now, along with the global organisation, in becoming the leading global network of active young citizens. And I'm sure that JCI Bradford will be actively involved in establishing those ideals, both locally here in their hometown at the national level. And we at National Board are very, very happy to support you in any way we can during this exciting time for your local chamber. Now, I'd like to say this is my first time in Bradford, so I wanted to do a little bit of research, and there was lots of interesting things to find out. It is indeed a city that has much to be proud of, steeped in history and culture, from the cathedral to the UNESCO World Heritage Saltaire and the nearby Bronte County, not to mention the rugby, league and union, and football for the more active amongst us. But one of the most interesting facts that sticks in my mind is the real community spirit and active citizenship that obviously is a part of the Bradford community. And that's the fact that it was in this city that the first ever school dinners were issued back at the very beginning of the 19th century. Something to be proud of. And in the present day, one of the most recent accolades has to be the designation of Bradford as the very first UNESCO City of Film, awarded only 3 months ago. This sees Bradford now play a part as part of UNESCO's Creative Cities Network. The network is designed to promote the social, economic and cultural development of cities in the developed and developing world. And key to this is to encourage younger generations to get involved, be active citizens and nurture the talent here in this city. And I believe that all these aspirations eloquently describe what I believe JCI can offer to its members and the wider community. JCI Bradford is lucky to have at its helm this year a committed president in the form of Philip Lumley. His dedication to the organisation over the years has been tremendous, and it is a testament to his dedication that he has been so actively involved in the organisation of this fantastic event tonight. The current re-energising of the Chamber, and indeed the evidence of the 50th anniversary celebrations. I know that Phil has been working tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure the success of tonight. This dedication has not gone unnoticed, and it's with great pleasure that on behalf of National President Charlie Best, I would like to present Philip with a Presidential Recognition Certificate and acknowledging his commitment to JCI Bradford. And there are other active members amongst the active citizens in JCI Bradford. And I would also tonight like to give recognition to one of its active members with over 10 years membership, beginning in JCI Wakefield and then on to Bradford. Tim Lomas, could you please come to be represented?
Hey, sorry, not confidential.
And I'm sure after Phil's words of encouragement tonight, we're going to see many more members bear those commitments to fruition in the years to come. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you very much for inviting me here tonight and say that I'm honoured to be part of such an historic occasion. Thank you very much.
We have a video to show you. This time, an honorary life member on video, Mr. Tony Hepworth.
Well, I better introduce myself. I'm Tony Hepworth. I was the first president of the then called Bradford Junior Chamber of Commerce, and so I've been asked to talk about those first days and how the chamber came about. It's a bit sort of back to front in a way, because I had become a member of the council of the Bradford Chamber of Commerce. I think the idea was to try and get some people onto that council who weren't in the textile industry, because obviously nearly everybody in business in Bradford at that time was. So I started off there, and I was invited to go to a lunch of the fairly recently formed Leeds Junior Chamber by a friend of mine who was a member. And I thought it was a jolly good setup, and so when I got back, I said to the then president of the Bradford Chamber that I thought it would be a good idea if we had a junior chamber in Bradford. And so we discussed it and we asked various people, and it was quite obvious that the chamber would be happy to sponsor the idea. And so we decided to go ahead, and he then said to me, I do hope you realise what you're letting yourself in for. If you push this thing through, you're going to end up as the first president of the new chamber. Well, it had dawned on me that this might be the outcome if people wanted me to, and indeed it did. So we had the inaugural meeting, and we got a Bradford Junior Chamber, which took off magnificently. I think it was perhaps because Bradford in those days had an awful lot of family businesses. And this means, or meant particularly in those days, that a lot of ambitious sons, particularly elder sons, were not getting any real say in how the business was being run, and were longing to get their hands on the steering wheel, as it were. So I think that was what appealed to a lot of people in Bradford, that they could be running something, and that's why the Junior Chamber grew almost immediately into one of the really large ones, which was a bit unusual. And it also meant that we had a chamber which was not made up of what you might call the business service people, like banks and accountants, those sort of people, which many junior chambers at that time were predominantly made up in. And in fact, the president of the Leeds Chamber, Junior Chamber, was the manager of one of the Leeds branches of what was then the Midland Bank. It didn't do him any harm, because he ended up eventually being the general manager of the Midland Bank in the days when that sort of job was respectable. Well, the chamber, as I say, grew very quickly and very successfully, and I'm extremely pleased to see that it's still fairly successful, not quite as good as we were, you know, but it's still good to see that it's still around, and I hope that it will continue to be an important contributor to life in this city, which it deserves to be. Now I continue to be connected to some extent because I was honoured to be made a senator many, many years ago. And I do go to Senate functions, not every time, but I do try to get to them whenever possible, if they're reasonably local or if they're in a place where I can get to quite easily. And this has retained friendships which I made half a century ago and which are still important to me. And I rejoice, therefore, in what Junior Chamber has done for me, both in the way of personal relationships and also business relationships. The year that I was president, Edward Heath was going round to all sorts of local organisations, particularly business related, to persuade us all that we should go into the European Economic Community. So we did this by accepting invitations to Rotary dinners and chambers of commerce and all sorts of things. And I kept meeting him. And about 2 years after that, my uncle was the president of the Bradford Textile Society. And he asked me to go along and be the visitor to all these places that I went. I nearly always had to reply to the toasts of the guests. And so that's what I was doing at the Bradford Textile Society, because I wasn't in the textile industry. And so at the end of the dinner, we were walking out to the president's sort of gathering for a drink after the dinner. And Teddy turned to me and he said, "I enjoyed your speech again, Mr. Hepworth," because of course I could use the same word because I was always in a different place. So I said, "It's all very well for you," because by this time he was Prime Minister. I said, "It's all very well for you. You've got a new job. I'm still doing the same bloody thing."